Hello, welcome to Bartelle's Money Talk, and today we have Dr. League with us. Can you introduce yourself to the audience so they'll know how smart and how much of an expert you are?
Thank you, Teresa. Yes, my name is Dr. Mark L Teague. I grew up in North Texas, in the Panhandle, actually, up on the North Plains. Had a farm and ranch background. I married my high school sweetheart. We started in marriage in 1986. We've been married working on 39 years, and I raised 4 kids, have 9 grandchildren, and we're very happy about that. And the key thing that will form a lot of our talk here and what I wrote a book about is in the mid-'80s when we were married, the farm economy was very difficult, and that was our background, very traditional American. Cash flow was tight, money was tight, very high risk, tight margin business, so we decided to make a change. We wound up going to Oklahoma State University, earned a doctorate there, entered the banking and finance industry, and about 25 years, 30 years if you include grad school, building a career. Wound up in private equity, and then retired from that, and I noticed some things through that experience that were very striking to me about the American workforce, American culture, and it formed a book. I just had to get it off my mind, get it on paper, and I love to talk about it. We're very steep in the working class. I've seen it from every end, from very little money to very high salary. I've seen the whole spectrum. The corporate world, the workforce. I've been out working cattle and growing crops. I've seen the workforce from every angle, and there are some things that you just can't escape from, and I love to talk about those things.
Well, Dr. Teague, Dr. Mark I'm going to call him Dr. Mark because I am not going to mess up his last name. So he's Dr. Mark for me. And thank you so much for joining us. And so basically what we're going to talk about here is the working class. And if you are a part of the working class, I recommend that you stay until the end of the video so that maybe you can do something to change the trajectory of your life and the legacy that you're going to live. So Dr. Mark, based on your experience, what would be your definition of the working class?
Oh, that is a great place to start. And I have a deep passion and a firm conviction about one thing. When you define working class, forget about income. Don't use income to define it. Use a literal definition. The working class is the class that is working. That's the way to think about it. And the truth is, America is a working class nation. It always has been. It always will be. It's time to be explicit about that. And here's a hard fact. When you talk about the working class, whether you have a little bit and you're trying to grow that, or whether you have a lot and you're trying to maintain it, the principles involved are the same. They're not different. You're going to think about the same things and you're going to do the same things. So let's get away from dividing ourselves by money. That's ridiculous. We need to focus on the American aspect of the working class, and that is the class that is working. When the working class does well, America is strong. When the working class struggles, America is weak. So let's just face up to that. Let's build our culture around that. Let's build our mindset around that. Let's build public policy around that. And there is no end to the prosperity that we can find in this country if we do that. I'm convinced. So you actually hit the most important point right up front, which is how do you define working class? Literal, the class that is working. That's the working class. So we need to stop hating each other over money. That's stupid. It's counterproductive. We're people. We're Americans. The principles that will make us successful are the same. Let's embrace those, and we will be a very strong country.
Okay, so Dr. Mark, based on my knowledge, because your expertise, you're a physician, you're a doctor, you have your doctorate in financial education. So in my brains, I always thought the working class had to do with money. Like you work, but you're broke. Like the working class, you work, but you never can save. You're just working and living paycheck to paycheck. But you're saying that's not what the working class really is.
Let's do a simple exercise here. Let's take family A. Family A makes, let's say, $28,000 per year, okay? They're having a hard time meeting budget. They have to watch expenses very tightly, very closely. They struggle to make ends meet month to month. That's a challenge, okay? So that describes family A, $28,000 per year. Okay, let's take family B. They make $42,000 a year. Is it that much different? They're struggling to make ends meet too. They're watching their budget every month. Let's take family C. They make $112,000 a year. How much different is it really? And here's the key thing. How did they get from $28,000 a year to $112,000 a year? They're doing the same things that family A is doing, that family B is doing, and the same principles that took family C to where they are. That's what family A is going to do. That's the very same things that they're going to follow in family B. So really, money is not the thing that divides it or defines the working class. There are principles underneath it that cut across income levels. Focus on those. That's what really matters. If you focus on those things, the family that can manage a monthly budget and meet monthly challenges basically can solve problems every month. They're going to get along and do well, whether they're making $28,000 a year or whether they're making $112,000 a year. And if you're making that $112,000 a year and you do not employ those principles, you're going to end up life poor as well. You won't have a thing to your name. So the point is, the principles that work, the principles that bring success and that bring prosperity, bring peace and bring wealth, those things are the same. I'll give you another excellent example. Do you want to have more wealth? Get married and stay married. The facts are clear. Do you want to have better health in life? Get married and stay married. Do you want to live longer and achieve more? Get married and stay married. That's true no matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter. Do you want to have more emotional satisfaction in life? Get married and stay married. The stats are very clear. You can, in the course of my book, I brought myself current on all the latest research in terms of marriage, divorce, effects upon family, effects upon your health, effects upon your satisfaction in life. It has nothing to do with income. The number one factor is if you'll get married and you'll go to work at it and stay married, you're going to be healthier, you're going to be happier, you're going to live longer, and you're going to have more money over the course of your life. So income is not the dividing line. It's that's not the thing that should separate us. There are principles underneath that. If we focus on those and work those, you're going to find success. You're going to have more wealth. You're going to have more income. You're going to have more satisfaction. You'll have a better life. You will leave a better legacy. Absolutely. You can leave a tremendous legacy no matter how much money you make. That is not important. Think about the figures that have changed history. Was it income? Let's think about Jesus Christ. What's his legacy? Is it
Ooh, he
tied to
died on
money? What about the
no.
Apostle Paul? Was it money?
No.
No. It's principle. Principle. They lived by principle. They changed the world. So let's forget about defining working class by income. That's a mistake. That limits us. It puts us in a box, and it makes us opposed to anybody that makes more than I do. It just makes you jealous. It makes you envious and full of greed. Whatever you have, be a good steward. Learn to be a good steward with whatever we have today. And then now you're going to work and you're going to grow that. You're going to make that more. You're going to be more effective in managing it. You're going to learn how to up your income, and you'll be wise in using it when you get it. There are a whole lot of people that make that $150,000 a year salary. They forgot how to manage it. They're poor, broke every month too, because their expenses have outstripped their income. We need to return to basic principles. You don't get the national debt that we have today by being wise. We've been very foolish. We need to manage in a much better fashion what we have. So it's time to stop thinking about income is the answer. It's not. Principles are the answer. Principles. Melissa and I, my wife and I, we've been poor as church mice, and we've been quite wealthy. We've seen both. The principles are the same. They're the same. The things you really need to focus on, the things that make a meaningful, impactful life and give you a great legacy, those are principles that transcend income. They're deeper. They're more foundational. They're eternal. They've been true throughout history. They will be true 10,000 years from now. You focus on those things, that's what will leave a great legacy.
Okay, Dr. Mark, you gave me goosebumps and I already gave you my word. I'm going to try to keep you for a certain amount of time. But can you discuss just a little bit why marriage and staying married, if you decide to get married, helps you emotionally, financially, spiritually? How does
Yes.
it, yeah, what's the statistics with that?
Okay. The stats are well, I'll have to refer to my book here because I actually put a lot of work into citations and research. I pulled out journal articles where very formal studies have done. The most powerful studies are called cohort studies, meaning
Okay.
you take a group of people at a particular time, and often, they're married at a certain point in time, and then you follow those for years. You look, 15, 20, 30 years. If you do a lifetime cohort, that's like a 30 or 40-year study. You've identified a group of people. And I looked at several that were in different nations. One was out of Norway, one out of Sweden, one all American, one European. It one Latin American, different cultures, Asian, different places in the globe, but you follow the behaviors are very similar. You get that cohort when they marry, you look at all the attributes that are true when they're married, and then you follow that over the course of a lifetime. And here are the facts, very striking. The lifetime divorce rate in this modern world is in the 42 to 45% range, and that's over a lifetime. That means if someone gets married today, there's about a 42 to 45% chance over the course of their life they will be divorced, and that's up near 50% if you include separation. So they're still married technically, but they're no longer together. It's about half. So that's kind of grim. It's about a coin toss. If someone marries today, there's about even odds that they're going to make it over the course of their life. But the story doesn't end there. It's very important that you understand that's just all marriages in all conditions. Once you start looking at the factors that put a marriage in that 50% that succeed, you can find major cohorts, major groups of people for whom the divorce rate is zero. It's very low. Here are the factors. Religious. They have a deep faith. They live by principle. They are committed to things that are bigger than themselves. Those marriages last. They are going to they're going to make it. Those that marry for materialistic reason, they marry for that person's really good looking, or they marry for money, or they marry for some other reason. Those marriages won't last. So it's the principle that matters. The principle underneath it drives those marriages to success. Now, along that cohort study, you can also ask the question, what about the health effects? What about the wealth effects? What about the income effects that drive that? And it is without question a hard fact backed by hard research. You will be wealthier, you will have higher health, you will have more satisfaction if you get married and you stay that way. Now, you asked, Teresa, you asked the question why. I'm going to tell you why I think it is, because God made us that way.
Yes,
That's
he did.
why. God made
Yes.
us to live that way. You're agreeing with the Almighty. You're agreeing with the one that made you. You're living the way he told us to live. So, the outcome should be better, and they are. Research shows that. So I think that's why. Now, you can get even more mechanical. What's the daily physical mechanics that make you better? Well, you just live better. You have more purpose. You have more drive. You have more focus. You're going to make better decisions because now you're doing it together, not just one of you. You have two viewpoints, and you have the male and the female viewpoint, which makes a whole person. So it's those things come together, and it matters. That's the bottom line of the research. It matters. Marriage is a huge a benefit to humanity. We need to embrace it, and that needs to be combined with the working class view. Let's stop talking about money. Let's talk about the class that is working. What's the number one thing the working class can do to benefit themselves? Get married and stay married. You will have a better life. Things will go better. And I think also, chapter 1 of my book is about problem solving. You need to accept the fact that life is a series of problems.
Oh, yes.
They're coming your way. It doesn't matter what you think, whether you like that or not. They're coming your way. If you develop basic problem solving skills, you're going to be able to meet that challenge. And I have an entire chapter devoted to that. Well, here's the thing about marriage. You will be solving problems together. You're focusing, you're practicing those skills. You're working things out. You can apply that in every area of life. Health issues, income issues, job issues. You're doing that together. It makes you better. You're a better person. You're a better problem solver. That's the heart of life, solving problems. A lot of people in life these days think they're too good for problems. Problems are a hassle. I'm above it. That's a hassle. That's beneath me, solving problems. Well, you're just arrogant. You're arrogant. You're childish. You're self-centered. You need to accept the fact that life is a series of problems. You buckle down and you become a steward. You are a steward of resources, and you have a serious mind. You now have a serious mind you can be dependent upon. You are reliable, and that marriage enhances every bit of that. It enhances that entire skill set, that entire approach, and you approach life differently. It's a better approach. It's a better way.
I love that. And Dr. Mark, can you speak into the life of people who are married, but they think that they should keep their income separate from their spouse?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me. This is chapter 3. I'm going to speak specifically from chapter 3 in my book. There are, if you take this problem-solving approach, which makes you focus on foundational things, bedrock things. That's, when someone accepts the fact that life is a series of problems, and I need to be serious about solving them, you get a serious mind. Well, there's a couple of things that show show up right away. One is you become humble. The first sign is humility. You realize that I'm a steward here. I'm not a sovereign Lord. I'm put on this earth as a steward. You're not all about yourself. I'm here to do something. I'm here to get something done. Well, the longer term effect of that is I focus on deep things. I focus on things that are under the surface. That's what I want to understand. I want to see below a superficial issue. I want to see underneath. I want to see the things that last. Okay. Well, if you do that in marriage, what makes it work? What makes it tick? Is it compatibility? No way. No way.
No way.
You're going to run into differences. I mean, life just, it's
Right.
life guarantees that. You're two different people and you're two flawed people. You are
Right.
two inherently flawed people facing problems. You're going to have arguments. You're going to have disagreements. You're not going to see it the same way. It's not compatibility. So what is it? There are two things. With this problem-solving approach applied to marriage, you come away with two principles that you must have for a marriage to be successful. First of all, it's an absolute commitment to the marriage itself as a unit. The marriage, when two people join in marriage, it's no longer about one or the other. You now have a distinct personality. The marriage itself becomes a personality, and each individual commits themselves to the marriage as a separate unit. It's a separate, distinct unit apart from each individual. If you have that commitment, your marriage is going to last.
Oh yeah.
It is a fundamental because you're committed to the marriage itself and being whole. Well, the second principle is you learn to solve problems together. So through my chapter 1, I have problem solving techniques. Well, in a marriage, you're going to do that as a unit. Solve those problems together because you need that other perspective. A wife needs a husband needs a wife. You need each other. You're going to have those two perspectives. You're going to work through issues together. So I would say to a couple, having said all that, Teresa, I would say to a couple, you're going to keep your money separate. You're cheating yourself. You're cheating
Wow.
yourself. You're robbing yourself of opportunities to solve problems together. You're trying to live an individual life inside
Right.
of a marriage when the whole point is you have dedicated yourself to a unit that is beyond yourself. Your commitment goes beyond you, yet you're saying this entire area of my life, which is income, I'm going to keep that from you. Well, I would say that it's possible that would work, but you're robbing yourself of so much of the value of marriage and the potential for marriage and that's something that would be strange to me. My wife and I have never done that. We have joint accounts and we have absolutely had money problems. We've had major over money. And at the end of it, we're better. We're better than we've ever been. I would hate to think to not have that benefit of working through money issues together. So that I would say that's a mistake that you should not do that. And if you have
Right.
separate accounts, well, you better manage them together. You had better each know what the other's doing because you're not taking advantage of the power of marriage, and you're not committing yourself to what marriage inherently is, which is a commitment to something that's bigger than you.
Okay. Well, I like that information. And I hope someone is listening and maybe they'll come together with their spouse and decide that they need to work together as a team.
Yes.
Bring that money together and work together as a team so they can live and leave a lasting legacy.
Yes. Yes. That's
And
correct.
yeah, and so another thing that you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, which I cannot not ask you this, but can
Sure.
you give the listeners a few principles that they can use to increase their income? Because you mentioned principles, you mentioned stewardship, but
Yes.
what are some principles that people can use to
Okay.
increase their income?
Yes, excellent question. Two things I want to say to that. The one is basic general problem solving applies in the area of income. Then I want to get to a career. The second piece. On problem solving, one thing you never want to do, a huge mistake, is to let problems bind together.
Okay.
Once you're facing stress, you're facing issues, you want to look at that problem, break it down into its components, into its most separable units. But budgeting issues, income issues are a great example where often we find problems unsolvable. They're overwhelming. So let's just step back a second. Life brings a problem to you. It's like a blob. It just dumps in your lap. It's threatening. It's undefined. undefined, it's amorphous, it's changing, shifting. It's hard to figure it out. Well, make use of the way God made us. We have a rational mind. So take that, rather than trying to solve that blob, you want to put a frame around it. And you want to work against the frame, not against the blob. That's a key thing. You can put a rational frame around any problem, work that rational frame. That's what you're going to work against. The first step is make sure you have separated a problem into components. If you have 4 or 5 problems that is bound together, you're looking at it as one problem. It's actually, and that is almost impossible to solve. It's actually not one problem. It's 4 or 5 different problems. Break it down, work one at a time. And you want to work on 1 or 2 problems, 3 at the most, because we only have so much time and energy. We are limited in our resources. See, in these things that I speak of, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You'd better be doing this. It'll make your life better. At a low income, at a high income, do this, and everything's going to get better. Okay, so that's basic problem solving. Break them down, work the frame, don't work the blob, and make sure you have separated problems into their basic component, an inseparable component. You work on that. Don't let them bind together. That's particularly important for men. Let me speak to men for just a moment. If you let problems bind together, it's unsolvable. What you do is you get angry. Well, who's going to feel that anger? It'll be that woman standing there next to you. She's going to feel it more than anything. So if you'll go back to basic problem solving, break it down. Now you're going to find an answer. Work it one at a time. Life is going to get better. Now, let me get to income. Applying that approach to problem solving to income. See, I want my income to be higher. Here's the first thing that everyone must do. This is job number 1. No matter where you're at, if you're an 18-year-old just getting out of high school, if you're 25-year-old and you're wondering if you should change careers, if you're 35 and you just got laid off, if you're 50 and the pink slips are coming and you're going to have to make a change, here's the one thing you do. When you're sitting there making choices about how you're going to work, how you're going to be productive, how you're going to find an income, remember, there are some 260 million consumers in this country. They have a vote. They have a voice. They have a say. You're not going to make that choice all on your own. Oftentimes we think, I want to make the choice and do what I like to do. Well, what about consumers? What do they like? What do they want? We're in an open economy. You have to have 2 sides. You have to have the production side. You have to have the consumption side. And when you take that approach, here's the key thing. You're willing to change. You're willing to do things entirely differently. For some, that means, okay, I need to go to trade school, vocational. I need to learn to weld. I need to have a basic manufacturing skill set. For some, that means I need to develop management skills. I've been focused in the technical side of my job. I've never learned how to lead a team. I need to learn how to do that. It's going to mean something different for everyone. But what blinds us to the change that needs to make is we think we don't need to change. We think it's not necessary. It's demanded of all of us. So don't forget. Basic problem solving skills, those are important. And remember, consumers have a say. Consumers determine what gets valued. Just look around you and see what is being valued. Look in the marketplace. There's information all around you. What is being valued? And then match what you like to that. Now you're going to find that value winding up in your bank account. That's what will happen. And it will be a solution that is unique to you. It will be unique to your skills, to your preference, things that you like. But never forget the other side of the proposition, the consumer. They will determine what value is placed on what you think you want to produce. And that's where Melissa and I made a major change. We grew up in farm and ranch. The truth is there was an oversupply of farm and ranch goods. That means profits were very low, very high risk. So we made a change. And that was a great strain. We took a family of 4. My wife and 2 small children, went to graduate school. We had the budget of a typical church mouse. It was very thin, very meager. We did that for several years, and we didn't know any better. We were fine, but we had purpose. We were building skills. I had done an evaluation in the marketplace. What's being valued? So I knew what I was heading toward, what I wanted to achieve, and it worked out extremely well. But the basic principle is consumers are the ones who will set value. You don't get to make the choice yourself in terms of what gets valued. Consumers have a say as well. Account for that and be willing to change. And then if you apply basic problem solving skills to that, you're going to find a life that is all yours. It belongs to you. It's all yours. It's unique. and you will stop. When we do that, we will stop dividing the country by income. It doesn't matter. The principles are what matter. That's what makes us prosperous.
That is, look, of course, that was deep and it was very good. And I'm glad that you shared that you and your wife, you know what it feels like to be broke and you
Oh
know
yeah.
what it's like to be wealthy. So, in knowing that, can you tell us how important it is to have a budget?
Oh, it's critical. You must have one. That's your financial roadmap. It's the plans can be changed. A
Uh-huh.
budget is basically a plan. It's where you plan to be. What I would say to my teams when I was in the corporate workforce is that, do you want to know where you're going to be in 5 years? Look at where you're spending your time. Look at today. Take the next week, map out where your time goes. That's exactly where you'll be in 5 years. What you're doing today, what you devote your time to, that's where you'll be in 5 years. Budgeting is the same way. That's your roadmap. That's what you're working on. That budget. So it can change. It will change. But changing a plan is very different than not having one. If you don't have a plan, you're just you're a victim. You will be a victim, and that's the basic choice in life between problem solving and not problem solving. If you're problem solving, you have a solid chance of getting things done, and there are skills you bring to bear to that. And I line those out in detail in my first chapter. It's the opening chapter for a reason. It's a dividing line issue. So if you're problem solving, you have a chance to get something done. The alternative is you're a victim. You're always blaming someone else. You're always whining and complaining. Nothing's ever going your way. Problems are coming whether we like it or not. What we get to choose is the response, how I respond to those problems. Will I work to solve them and make life something that is good and positive and healthy, or will I be a victim and blame somebody else? It's their fault. That's your choice. So I'm not going to be a victim, and I hope your audience will say, I won't either. Let's choose to solve problems. A budget is solving problems in the financial realm. It gives you a plan. It gives you a path. You can always change it, but you better have one. You better be working against one, and you will have a better life. I'm going to share
Dr. Mark.
with you, Teresa, one of my very favorite verses out of Scripture. It's Proverbs 16:9. The mind of man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps.
That's right.
I love that verse. It's my second favorite verse of all time. And to me, that encapsulates life. I need to do my part. My part is plan my way. The mind of man plans his way. I need to do that. But if you look in the Hebrew, that second verse, second piece says, Jehovah fixes his steps. Okay, so while I'm doing my part, God is going to open doors, close doors, and He'll get me exactly where He wants me to be. But if you do nothing, well, that's hard to work with. I need to be planning my way, and a budget is just part of that plan. It's a particular piece of that plan. You need to have one. God will change it as He sees fit in His time and in His sovereignty. But I had better be doing something. He put me here for a reason, so I need to find something good and do it. He'll work things along the way after that.
Dr. Mark, you have made me speechless. You said with no budget, you plan on being a victim.
That's exactly it. 100%.
I have
100%.
never heard it said that way, but you know what? When you think about it, if you don't have a budget, you're going to be spending like crazy. You're not going to save. You're not going to
Yes.
invest. You won't have a
Yes.
retirement fund.
Yes.
You're going to be living paycheck to paycheck because you're not
Yeah.
planning your money, and you will be a victim.
That's exactly right. And you know what comes next, Teresa? Blame somebody else. It's somebody
Right.
else's fault. Well, does that not describe America, in modern culture?
Oh, yes.
I shouldn't
It
have to
does.
solve problems. I should live free, and something goes wrong, it's somebody else's fault. That's ridiculous. Completely
It
ridiculous.
is.
We've got to be better than that. We are better than that. Let's
We
get
are.
back to fundamental principles that work for everyone. Make everyone prosper. You must have a budget. You are absolutely planning on being a victim if you don't. The budget can change. You will change it over time, but you better have one. Same with a plan. You can change the plan over time, but you better have one. You better be working against one. That's being a steward. That's what stewards do. That's what
Right.
we're here for.
That's right. Well, one of the things that fascinated me about you is that living a life of significance.
Yes.
Let us know what your feelings and your thoughts are about that, because so many of us are so caught up in the modern day of life: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the great ironies of modern times that social media has made us socially dysfunctional.
Oh, yes.
Just ponder that for a little bit. We don't know how to talk to each other anymore.
Nope.
I mean, conversations are meant to be had right like this. And we're using technology. You and I are in very different locations. So we're sitting here face to face. This is going to
Right.
go out to your audience. So technology is very useful, but it should never supplant or replace human interaction direct face to face. That's significant. So on the significance it's that goes back to legacy. And I open the book with this idea. It's baked in the title. It's part of the key concept. You're going to leave a legacy of some fashion, whether you like it or not. A legacy, it used to mean, generations ago, it actually meant something material. It was an inheritance. A legacy was the inheritance that you left to your heirs. It has a more general meaning these days, but legacy means, simply put, what do you leave behind? What do you leave after you're there? What is left behind? That's the legacy. Well, you're going to leave one. It may be broad, it may be famous, it may be short and narrow, but you're going to leave one. Every time you have an interaction, you leave a relationship. There's a legacy left there. What does it say? And this entire book was me basically asking, what does that legacy say? What will be the lingering tale? What will be left behind when I leave? I want it to be positive, so I wrote it down. And the entire book is basically a roadmap to leave a positive legacy. It doesn't mean whether we like it or not, we will leave a legacy. And the legacy really is, think of it like this: what you leave behind. That's the legacy you need to think about. It may be large, it may be very broad, it may be narrow, but actually you leave a legacy every time you leave a conversation. Every time you leave a circumstance, a legacy is left. And you need to ask yourself, what is that? What's the lingering tale that I leave behind? And if we devote ourselves to principle and we live by fundamental foundational principles, not the whimsy of the moment, then a legacy will be good. And I state this in the book: a legacy, a life spent bending your knee at the altar of modern culture is not a legacy worth leaving. You need to look deeper than that. Look the deeper foundational principles that will leave a legacy that's a very positive thing. And that's basically the point of the book. If you want to leave a legacy behind you that is of quality and is something good, devote yourself to fundamental principles in life, and that will happen. And I spent an entire book explaining what that is, what those principles should be.
Wonderful. And so, can you give the audience 2 nuggets that they can use to help them improve their lives?
Learn to problem solve. That is of critical importance. Life is a series of problems. You don't get to choose whether that's true or not. It's fundamentally true. They're coming your way. It doesn't matter what station in life you're in. You can be a multimillionaire. Problems are going to jump in your lap tomorrow morning. That's guaranteed. So learn to problem solve. Learn the principles, the fundamental principles of problem solving will serve you well. It has served humanity well over the course of time. And the second nugget I would say, get married and stay married. That's the way to live. It's richer, it's more full, it's more satisfying. It's the legacy, man, when you're holding those grandkids, oh my goodness. Get married and stay married. And if a marriage is falling apart, well, learn something and start again. Go back to it. There's always family around. You can always recover. So I would say that problem solving and marriage, those are probably the top 2 things that will make a good life.
Wonderful. So now I need you to tell the listeners, what is the name of your book and where they can find you.
You bet. Here we go. Here's the book, A Working Man's Guide, right here. It's in print, and the website is just that, A Working Man's Guide. Drop the apostrophe, and don't forget the A Working Man's Guide. Here, it's on the back here. You can see it at the bottom, but it's simply the title without the apostrophe, A Working Man's Guide. So you can order straight off the website, and you can also go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble. There are several places to get it anywhere online. You can order books. You can get it there. And you can get all 4 types, paperback, hardback, ebook, and audiobook. I know a lot of people like to listen to books. That is available. You can get that off the website or Amazon, either one.
Wonderful. So now where can they find you?
Well, Facebook is a great place. I have a lot of information there. Dr. Mark L Teague. The Facebook profile, Dr. Mark L Teague is a great place for that. And in my profile, I list my personal phone number and email. I'd be glad to talk with any of you. In the book and on the website, you can find that.
And just a little tidbit, can you tell a listener like what they would get out of purchasing your book?
Well, I wrote it as a roadmap for the working class. It's a roadmap to success. Take us to a place of strength and make it permanent. Keep us there. That's the purpose of it. And essentially, the theme, the spine of the book is this: start with chapter 1 and problems, of course, introduction. You get to know me, background, etc. But chapter 1 is about problem solving. the techniques to make that work. And then I apply that to all the major areas of life that a working family will face. Chapter 2, matters of faith, spirituality. Why does it matter? Why is faith a rational thing? Faith is the most rational thing that you can do. And why is that? Well, I break that down into all of its components. Chapter 3, marriage, the institution of marriage. Chapter 4, the relationship of marriage, intimacy. Chapter 5, raising kids. Chapter 6, your profession, your career, making money, your income. Chapter 7, public policy and how it affects the working class. So I take those problem-solving techniques, which the reason I choose that is chapter 1, that's a dividing line issue. That separates men from boys, wheat from chaff. It separates those that have a serious mind versus those that are just playing games. They're childish. It's your view of life. It is a series of problems. Are you going to face it that way and develop problem-solving technique? That's chapter 1, and then I apply that idea through all the major areas of life. That's the nature of the book.
Dr. Mark, well, I recommend to my listeners, they need to get this book. It sounds amazing. And even if they just can figure out how to problem solve, get married, and stay married, this will change the trajectory of their lives and their legacy.
Yes, those simple and prominent things. It'll change your life. It certainly will.
Yes. Well, Dr. Mark, I want to thank you so much for joining me on Bartelle's Money Talk.
Yes, ma'am. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. And I look forward to having you again on our show in 2025.
Let's do it.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Take care, man.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.